Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
It was a Wednesday night. I only remember because I'd come home late from work, client call ran long, dinner was cold, and she was already on the couch when I walked in. She didn't ask how my day was. The kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful. The kind that is wait. I changed out of my work clothes, loosened my tie, and microwaved the leftovers without a word. The plate clinked too loudly on the counter, but she didn't flinch. We didn't talk while I ate. It wasn't until I was rinsing off the plate that she spoke. "I need to tell you something," she said quietly. I turned off the water, dried my hands, leaned on the counter. Her voice didn't sound angry. She looked up at me, eyes already rehearsed. That was the first thing I noticed. She hadn't been waiting for the right moment. She had already decided what this moment would be. "I've been thinking," she started, "and I need to be honest with you." My stomach tightened, but I nodded. She sat up straighter, folding the blanket across her lap like it gave her some kind of armor. "There's someone else." Just like that. No build-up. She wasn't apologizing or even hesitating. She said it like it was a bullet point on a presentation. I didn't speak. I wanted to, but my voice wouldn't come. I didn't even know what I'd say if it did. She kept going. "I haven't slept with him, but I want to know what life with him would feel like. I've been thinking about it for a long time. He's different." I felt something in my chest loosen, not break. I thought I'd feel rage. I thought betrayal came with sharpness. But what I felt was dull. Like something heavy had settled into my ribs and decided it wasn't leaving. She watched me like she expected me to yell. Maybe even beg. But I just stood there, hands still damp from the dish towel, unsure what to do with them. "I don't want to hurt you," she added, which sounded ridiculous given the context. "I just need to see. I need to see what it's like. I can't live with that question forever. I don't want to live with regret." That's when she said it. "If it doesn't work out, I'll come back. We'll be okay." The words hung in the room. Not rushed or whispered. Said like a promise. I blinked. She waited. I smiled. Just a little. The kind of smile that doesn't reach your eyes. The kind that makes you realize how numb you've become. "Okay," I said. "That's it." No speech or breakdown. I just nodded, told her I understood, and started wiping down the counter like she hadn't just made our marriage sound like a trial subscription. She looked confused for a second. Like maybe she expected more of a fight. But I didn't give her one. She had already made her choice. I wasn't about to perform grief for her approval. She stood up, maybe expecting me to ask where she was going, who he was, what the plan was. But I didn't ask. I didn't want the details. They wouldn't help. "I'm not packing a bag tonight or anything," she said, awkward now. "I just wanted to be honest." I nodded again. The night carried on like a scene neither of us believed in anymore. She went to bed early. I stayed on the couch. Didn't turn on the TV. Just stared at nothing for a long time. I thought about our wedding. Her vows. The way she used to laugh when we cooked dinner together. The first time she fell asleep on my chest while we watched a movie. All of it came back like it was someone else's life. The silence between us wasn't new. But now it had a finality to it. She had said it out loud. She was going to test the waters elsewhere. And if the current pulled her under, she planned to swim back here like this was some kind of safe harbor. I went to bed after midnight. She was already asleep. Or pretending to be. I didn't touch her. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, her words echoing with every blink. "I'll come back if it doesn't work." She said that, like I'd be here, arms open, house intact, ready to take her back once the adventure lost its shine. But what she didn't realize, by the time she looked back, there'd be nothing to return to. I woke up before the alarm, but didn't move. Just lay there, staring at the window as the early morning light started to creep through the blinds. She was still asleep beside me, curled toward the wall. The same side she always faced when we weren't speaking. It was the quiet that got to me. Not the absence of conversation, but the quiet you feel in your chest when something's over, even if the words haven't caught up yet. That kind of quiet feels final. I got up without waking her. Brushed my teeth. Shaved. Showered. I didn't want to feel like I was sitting still while everything I thought I knew was dissolving in front of me. When I walked back into the bedroom, she was sitting up, rubbing her eyes, looking unsure. "You're up early," she said, voice groggy. I nodded and didn't say much. She watched me get dressed like she wasn't sure what my silence meant. Like maybe she thought I'd pretend everything was fine to keep the peace. I didn't. She patted down the hallway while I made coffee. She didn't ask if I wanted breakfast. I didn't ask her anything either. We moved around each other like strangers in a hotel kitchen. After a while, she broke the silence. "I'm not leaving today." I meant what I said. I need time. I didn't respond. Instead, I pulled one of the suitcases from the hallway closet and set it on the bed. She stared at it. Seriously? She asked. Still, I said nothing. I moved to the dresser and opened her side. Methodically, quietly, I began folding her clothes. Not to be cruel or petty, just to start what she'd already decided was necessary. Her voice changed, a little sharper now. I said I needed space, not to be kicked out. I stopped folding and looked at her for the first time that morning. You said you want to know what life with someone else feels like, I replied, calm. It doesn't make sense for you to figure that out here. She blinked like she wasn't sure if she should be insulted or ashamed. But she didn't stop me. She sat on the edge of the bed while I packed, watching me with this distant look, like she thought there'd be more tears, or at least anger. Instead, I was just done. By the time I zipped the suitcase shut, she still hadn't moved. She only stood up when I lifted it and carried it to the front door. You don't have to make this so cold, she muttered. No, I said quietly, but you made it clear. I didn't ask if she'd booked a place or if he was picking her up. I figured she had it sorted. People don't make announcements like that without already working out the logistics. She hesitated for a moment at the door. This doesn't have to be the end, she said. It's just a reset. I nodded. Not an agreement, just acknowledgement. I'll call you, she added. I didn't answer. Just opened the door. She walked out slowly, like she thought I'd stop her. Like I'd suddenly remember all the good times and change my mind. I closed the door behind her, locked it, then stood there for a long while, hand on the knob, listening to the silence that filled the space where she used to be. No yelling, just an echo that settled deeper into the walls with every passing minute. Later that afternoon, I went through the apartment, opened drawers, gathered the rest of her things, makeup from the bathroom, her favorite mug from the cabinet, shoes she kept by the door. All of it, packed neatly, placed by the entrance. I didn't do it to erase her because I didn't want to live in limbo. She had chosen uncertainty, and I wasn't going to sit around waiting for the results of her experiment. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet at first. I caught myself expecting her to text, to call or come back. But she didn't. And as much as it stung, that silence started to feel cleaner than the noise we'd been living in for months. The air in the house shifted. Her perfume faded from the couch. Her hairbrush disappeared from the bathroom counter. I stopped hearing her footsteps in the morning. And weirdly, that started to feel like peace. I cleaned out the bedroom, rearranged things. Not emotional, just enough to feel like I was reclaiming it. I flipped the mattress, changed the sheets, boxed up her nightstand items and slid them into the hall closet. That Friday, I went to the hardware store and changed the locks. Not out of spite, just clarity. I didn't want her walking in unannounced, treating our home like a waiting room she could return to if her trial run failed. She had made a decision. All I did was follow through. That weekend, I took down the wedding photo in the hallway, tucked it into a drawer. It wasn't about erasing the past. It was about not letting it dictate the present. Her friends messaged me a couple times, asked if I was okay. One even said she was just going through a phase and to give her space. I didn't respond. They weren't there the night she laid out her plan to test our life against someone else's arms. They didn't see the blank stare on her face when she said she'd come back if it didn't work. She had made our marriage optional, reversible, but I wasn't going to be an option when she came back around. A week went by before I heard anything. Not from her, just through whispers. One of her friends, Rachel, ran into me at the grocery store. We weren't close, but we'd shared meals, birthday cakes, movie nights. She paused when she saw me in the produce aisle. I didn't expect to see you here, she said, scanning my face like I was supposed to look devastated. I gave a polite nod, tossed a few apples into a bag. She's staying at her cousin's place, she offered, like I'd asked. Just until she figures things out. I didn't reply, just gave her a small smile and moved on to the next aisle. By that point, I wasn't interested in updates, because I was learning what life without her felt like, and oddly, it felt lighter. The routines shifted fast. I started sleeping through the night. No more watching the clock at 2:17 a.m., wondering when we stopped being partners. I'd wake up, brew a pot of coffee, and stand in the kitchen without tension hanging in the air like fog. I wasn't checking my phone for her texts. Her things stayed by the entrance for a while, untouched. Not as a gesture, because I hadn't gotten around to dealing with them. But one morning, after I stepped over the suitcase again, I bent down and rolled it to the closet. That was the day I realized I was done stepping around what she left behind. I didn't tell anyone what had happened. Not in detail. When my brother asked if we were doing okay, I said, "We're figuring things out." When my mom noticed I was alone at Sunday lunch, I told her she was visiting a friend. The truth felt too raw to put into words. Somewhere in that second week, I moved her framed photos into a drawer. Not angrily. Quietly. It wasn't about punishing her. It was about clearing space, mentally, physically. I started noticing things I hadn't seen in months. Dust in corners. Old books I meant to read. Drawers filled with things I didn't need anymore. She was gone, and the house wasn't grieving. A part of me was waiting for the catch. For her to show up. Say it was a mistake. That this guy wasn't what she thought. That she wanted to fix things. But she didn't. Instead, Rachel texted me again a few days later. "She's been asking about you," she wrote. "Wondering if you're okay. If the door's still open." That's when I knew she hadn't understood what had happened. She thought she'd put us on pause. That our life together was a Netflix episode she could resume whenever she felt like it. She didn't grasp that I'd already stood up, turned off the TV, and walked away from the screen. There was no anger in me anymore. Just a slow, solid realization that I didn't miss her presence. I missed the version of her I'd loved. The woman who looked at me like I was home. The one who held my hand without looking over her shoulder. That woman hadn't been around for a long time. I went through my phone and deleted the photos. The vacation snapshots, the blurry date night selfies, the texts with hearts and inside jokes that used to mean something. Because I didn't want to keep staring at a ghost. Every day got quieter, then calmer. I didn't expect peace to come with absence, but it did. I stopped needing explanations. Stopped reliving the night she told me she was leaving. Not forever, just to see. That night used to haunt me. Now it was just a page I'd turned. On a Saturday afternoon, I found a note in the mail slot. No envelope. Just a folded sheet of paper with her handwriting on the front. "Can we talk?" I didn't open it right away. Just stood there holding it. The weight of those 3 words heavier than I expected. I unfolded it slowly. Short message. No apologies or promises. Just a suggestion that maybe we talk things through or revisit what we had. I read it once. Then again. Then slid it into the junk drawer with the coupons and dead batteries. I didn't answer. The next day, I got a knock on the door. I didn't have to check the peephole. I knew it was her. There was a pause. A shuffle. Then another knock, softer this time. I didn't move. I let her stand there. Maybe she thought I was out. Eventually, I heard the retreat of her footsteps, the slow tap of heels walking away. She had expected the door to swing open. Expected the warmth of familiarity, the comfort of my arms waiting like a reset button she could press. But she had misunderstood something fundamental. I wasn't keeping her spot warm or pausing my life while she test drove someone else's. She left, asking for freedom. And now, she had it, every piece of it. It was 3 weeks after the note in the door when she tried again. This time, no text, no folded letter. She just showed up, middle of the afternoon, suitcase in hand. I saw her through the blinds. Parked across the street, sitting in the car for a while before stepping out. She wore the same coat she used to hang by the door. Still had my spare key on her lanyard, like that meant something now. She walked up to the porch slowly, like she wasn't sure if she wanted to be seen. Glanced around once. Then she slid the key into the lock. Didn't turn. She tried again. Still nothing. That's when I opened the door, barely a few inches. Just enough for her to see me. No expression on my face. Only calm. "New locks," I said. She blinked. "Oh, I didn't think." "I know." We stood there for a second. Her looking for a crack in the door. Me holding it steady. "I just want to talk," she said, trying to smile. "That's all." I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. She moved to hug me. Reflex, maybe. She took a breath, regrouping. "Look, I know how it sounded. I know what I said was harsh, but I never meant for it to be forever. You know that, right?" I didn't reply. I barely needed clarity. I needed space to figure things out. I leaned against the railing, arms crossed. "And did you?" I asked. She hesitated. Looked down. "It wasn't what I expected," she said finally. "He's not who I thought." I nodded once. Not surprised. "I realized I made a mistake," she added quickly. "I thought I was missing something. Turns out, I had it all along." She tried to laugh. It came out thin. "I shouldn't have left the way I did," she continued, more serious now. "I thought I could come back and pick up where we left off." But seeing the door locked, she trailed off. She looked around, like the porch might offer her comfort. It didn't. You look different, she said quietly. Calmer. I shrugged. Been sleeping better. Her eyes flashed something. Regret, maybe. Or just recognition. She no longer knew what was happening in my life. I don't expect everything to go back to normal, she said. But maybe we can try. Start slow. Talk. I shook my head gently. That part's over. She stared at me. You don't even want to try? I gave a small, almost tired smile. You left because you wanted to see if something else felt better. That was the whole point, wasn't it? She looked away. And now you're back, I continued. Not because you missed me, but because that didn't work out. That's not fair. It's not meant to be, I said. It's just true. She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, then thought better of it. I was honest with you, she said instead. I didn't lie. I told you everything. Yeah, I nodded. You told me I was plan B. Her shoulders dropped at that. That's not how I saw it, she whispered. But it's how you lived it. We stood there in the kind of silence that doesn't need to be filled. The kind where everything that should have been said has already been burned through. She glanced at the suitcase. So what am I supposed to do now? I looked at her straight. Figure it out. She gave a half laugh, half sob. You're really not letting me in? I already did, I said. For years. The front door behind me stayed closed. She lingered, like she thought I'd change my mind. Eventually, she picked up her suitcase, turned back toward the sidewalk, and walked to her car. No yelling. Barely the quiet weight of finality. I watched her drive away without looking back. And as the sound of her engine faded down the street, I realized something. She had walked out because she wanted to chase a feeling. But she came back looking for the comfort she left behind. I had buried it the night she said, I'll come back if it doesn't work. I nodded, smiled, and spent every day since making sure there was nothing left for her to return to. The house was still after she left. No lingering scent, no coffee mug half full by the sink. Just silence. But not the kind that aches. This one was settled, like the air had finally exhaled after holding its breath for too long. That evening, I took a slow walk through the place. Not out of nostalgia, but to see it clearly. To really register that it was mine again, undivided. The clutter she used to scatter across every surface was gone. Her coat didn't hang by the door anymore. Her favorite slippers, the ones she never picked up, weren't waiting beside the couch. And I didn't miss them. That surprised me at first. How little space grief had taken up in the aftermath. Just this quiet knowing. Like I had finally stepped out of a fog I'd been convincing myself wasn't there. I thought I might feel hollow. That I'd stand in the doorway wondering if I'd done the right thing. But I didn't. I felt clean. Somewhere along the line, she'd decided our life together was negotiable. Not broken, just optional. Like we were a contract she could pause and revisit, depending on how things unfolded elsewhere. She never stopped to consider what that meant for me. That I'd be left in limbo, carrying the weight of a marriage she was trying on and off like a seasonal jacket. And for a while, I think she believed I'd wait. That I'd stay still. Keep her place warm. Keep her side of the bed untouched. She really believed love worked that way. She didn't understand that when she walked out, she wasn't stepping away from something stagnant. She was stepping out of something that had already started to change. Because I'd finally stopped holding my breath. I started letting the house evolve in small ways. Cleared out the closet. Donated what she'd left behind. Rearranged the furniture in the living room. Not emotional, just enough that it felt different. Just enough that she wouldn't recognize it as hers anymore. I went back to the gym. Not out of revenge or spite. Just because I wanted to feel like myself again. Started cooking real meals. Cleaned the baseboards. Hung new art in the hallway where our wedding photo used to be. I wasn't rebuilding from destruction. I was reclaiming. She sent one more text about a week later. Just a line. Can we at least talk? No punctuation and warmth. It read like an obligation. Some people believe closure comes from long conversations, confessions, or surprising declarations. I've learned it doesn't. Sometimes, closure is just the absence of noise. The understanding that some doors don't close with a slam, but a click. Quiet, permanent. Friends asked about her eventually. A few mutuals reached out, trying to understand. I didn't offer explanations. Just told them things had run their course. That was enough. They didn't need the details or to know how she'd stood in our kitchen and looked me in the eye, saying she needed to see what life felt like with someone else, like she was browsing options. What stayed with me wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the calculation, the idea that she could press pause, go experiment, and then come home and pick up where she left off. She never asked what that would do to me. Never considered what it would mean to stand on that porch and see her holding a suitcase, ready to resume a life she'd casually discarded. But by then, I was someone else. Not colder, just clearer. I'd spent years walking on eggshells, trying to meet her shifting expectations, making space for her moods, swallowing disappointment in the name of peace. And the moment she left, all of that crumbled. She used to accuse me of being too passive, too slow to react. She'd say I let things slide when I should have stood up. But the truth was, I was never weak. I was patient. I gave her the benefit of the doubt until there was nothing left to give. I waited until the silence said more than the shouting ever could. And when she finally reached for the life she abandoned, she found the door locked. Not in vengeance, but in certainty. Because once someone treats your love like a backup plan, you don't offer it again. You don't repackage your loyalty for someone who once called it optional. You let them stand there, suitcase in hand, realizing they were never going to get the homecoming they assumed was guaranteed. You let them see the space they once occupied has already been filled with peace. And when they ask, "What now?" you don't argue. You just smile. And you say nothing. Because your absence is the answer.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.